Welcome to Bold Talk series, where creativity, leadership, ideas, innovation come together. My name is Epi Ludvik, and today I have a privilege to have a short one-on-one conversation with Steven Weiner, president at Menlo College. Steven, great seeing you. Welcome to our Bold Talk series. How are you?
Thank you, Epi. I'm very well. I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, likewise here, Steven, and truly looking forward to this great conversation. Steven, before stepping into the role of a president at Menlo College, what were the pivotal moments in your journey that shaped how you lead today?
I think going all the way back to Greek times, for thousands of years, we have understood that early childhood experiences influence our adult lives. The analogy for me professionally is that our early professional experiences very much influence our journey as professionals. And for me, I had the opportunity to assume a management role. I was going to say straight out of graduate school, but I hadn't actually walked to get my diploma yet. So at the ripe old age of 23, I was offered the opportunity to assume a management role in a medical center at the University of Chicago, and had the responsibility for supervising a team of about 60 people, almost all of whom were significantly older than I was, and all of whom had significantly more responsibility than I did. The phrase leading from behind hadn't yet been coined, but it was when it was. I reflected back on that early experience because that's effectively what I had to very quickly learn was essential. I had to develop the empathy and the understanding and the ability to motivate people to come together around a shared vision to succeed. And when I think back of my career since that date, that really defined how I approach leadership roles. And that was surely true for the first 16 years in higher ed back at Chicago. It also was true when I left higher ed to join the corporate setting, where an expectation of more hierarchical decision making is expected, but I found leading from behind was far more effective even there, and that has carried me to this day.
Now, well said. Now, Steven, Menlo College is often called a small college that changes lives. When you first arrived, what did you see in Menlo that convinced you it could play such transformative role in education?
I'd love to run with your leading question, but I have to be more humble, or at least more honest. I'm not sure I did see it when I first joined Menlo. As I mentioned, my first 16 years was in higher ed. I then left higher ed for a very long time, 18 years. And at that point in my career, had made a decision to return to higher ed. But as my only higher ed experience was in an academic medical center, my search started with an expectation that that's where I would go again. And I actually contacted someone I knew who was a headhunter at the time. And I said, okay, on the job market, I want to stay in the Bay Area. Do you know of any openings at Stanford, at UCSF, at Davis, places with medical schools? I said, if I'm slumming it, I'll look at Berkeley, but they don't have a medical center, so I'm not sure it'll be a good fit. And she said, well, I don't have anything at any of those places, but I do at this small college called Menlo College, which I hadn't heard of at the time. And my first reaction after I looked at the website and read the job description, I said, that's just not a fit for me. I had a very narrow view of the higher ed industry. I am a product of private schools and significantly bigger private schools than college. And when I looked at this school and saw its size, its more limited scope, its challenges, I thought, my first thought was that it would not be a good match for me. And she fortunately was more insightful than I, and basically argued that at the time I hadn't interviewed in 18 years, which at the time was true. She said, just think of it as an exercise. I am so indebted to this woman for giving me that push, because it was only over the course of the interviews, spending time here, getting to know the community that opened my eyes to the very unique place within a very crowded landscape of the higher ed industry, the very unique place that Menlo occupies. And it is, as your question suggests, our size and our tradition of a high touch approach that allows us to connect with our students in a very real way. We are on the journey with them in every way that you can imagine, the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the not so beautiful, right? And that's something that I feel extraordinarily fortunate to have experienced. One of the ways I illustrate the point to people is I tell them that when commencement comes around, I know 60 to 70% of the students who walk across that stage and have a sense of the journey that they've been on, and as importantly, a sense of what they hope their next chapter will bring. Which president of a college gets to say that? And it's a gift. So it is very much our ability to connect, and by virtue of connecting, to help young people develop the confidence in themselves and the vision for what the world may hold for them in the sense of opportunities. So a long answer to a short question, but it's
No, it's really because what I'm seeing here, there is a commitment from your part, right? And that commitment now that being every part of the journey, you don't see it in a lot of universities. I remember in my days as a student, I went to state university, and I didn't really feel that connected. It was me that I had to imagine. Like, so I'm by natural, I'm very outgoing person. I can go and speak to anyone. You drop me to anywhere like it, I meet people. But imagine people who don't have that, right? And so this is truly amazing. And so I really see that there's a commitment, level of commitment that you made it possible to make sure that you walked in part of that journey. You said like 60% of people knowing that stage. So important. So I congratulate you on that part, Stephen. When it comes to a location, you're right in the heart of Silicon Valley, where highest innovations happening in entrepreneurship, the top performers. How do you balance preparing students for the fast-paced world of a startup and tech while staying true to the college's liberal arts and human-centered mission?
your choice of words in that question is spot on. It is a balancing act. It's one in which our students play an outsized role. The fact that we are in the heart of Silicon Valley and that we make such a point of being connected to Silicon Valley in terms of what happens in the classroom, but also the opportunities that we make available to our students outside the classroom, whether it's an experience we call Silicon Valley Immersion, which is a 2-week program every year where students spend time at various Silicon Valley companies exposed to C-suite individuals, people who have the vision for where that has been driving their company and will drive it in the future, so that students, I mentioned being on the journey with them before, that's a brief opportunity to feel like they have a glimpse of the journey that those companies have been on, and the challenges and the considerations that they have to take into account. But we also bring Silicon Valley into the classroom. Some of our part-time faculty members, their day jobs are at the well-known companies that prompted many of our students to choose us because of our location and our connections. So it's by way of saying that our students are highly motivated to be exposed to Silicon Valley, and it's something that we that comes to a significant point when they fulfill their required internship, which takes place between their junior and senior year. Students at Menlo College come to us from all over the world. The slight majority come to us from California, but 25% of our students come from outside this country. We have 48 different countries represented on our small campus, and 22 different states in the U.S. More than 90% of our students complete their internship right here in Silicon Valley. Again, it comes back to their reason for choosing Menlo College, but also what we emphasize here. So we're able to provide a liberal arts-based education before students declare their major and pursue their particular field. But their pushing us to get exposed to Silicon Valley. And there are a lot of teasers along the way, whether it's our TEDx Menlo College event every year or the startup contests that we hold. These are ways in which we encourage students to feel what it's like to be part of the Silicon Valley ecosystem in all its flavors. It's not just the tech world. People make a one-to-one association between the tech world and Silicon Valley, but it's also a biotech hub, which provides a lot of career opportunities for our students as well. So one of the important missions that we assume is to provide our students with awareness of the broader set of opportunities that are here, from the garage-based startups to the Googles, but also to the Genentechs and the financial industry, the real estate industry. I mean, I could keep going, right? It's a very rich and robust world. It's one of Menlo College's greatest assets, kind of like real estate, location.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. It would never go. It would never be the other way. And the location, it's you're right in the heart of it, where you're pulling all the great people with the greatest aspirations, and this is great to see that you're connecting again the dots in the ecosystem that it being there in the midst of the Silicon Valley. Now, Stephen, education's facing immense challenges, from AI disrupting the job market to student rethinking the value of a degree. How do you see Menlo evolving its model to remain relevant and life-changing for the next century, perhaps?
Yeah, well, we're approaching our first century. 2027 will celebrate the 100th year since our founding. So many of our considerations are viewed to positioning Menlo College to ensure it's celebrating its bicentennial as well. And so much of that comes back to relevance. I mentioned earlier, the higher ed world is a very crowded one. How do we distinguish a Menlo College education and the opportunities that Menlo College provides? And it's I've talked a lot about Silicon Valley connections and education, but as much as anything, what distinguishes Menlo is the student experience broadly defined. Another distinguishing feature of Menlo College, athletics plays an outsized role here. 55% of our students are varsity athletes. It's got to be off the charts, and it provides yet another way in which we offer students the opportunity to understand themselves better, to develop their skills. And I'm not talking here playing skills, although obviously that's part of it, but it's discipline, it's leadership, it's time management, and it's a sense of confidence. So many of our students do not come to us with a great deal of self-confidence. And so much of what I think is vital to their future success is developing that sense that they have the potential to be successful. They have the potential to be a driver in defining the way their life takes shape. And that requires concerted effort in the full spectrum. What happens in the classroom, what happens in the way of the professional experiences we expose our students to, like Silicon Valley immersion, like the internship that I mentioned, but also what happens on the soccer field, what happens on the wrestling mats and elsewhere. It's all part of a puzzle to developing their understanding of who they are, who they want to be, and what they're capable of, and giving them the confidence they can pursue their dreams credibly. One of their program. Sorry, you asked one little question, and I go on so long, but
No, I'm enjoying it, so don't worry.
We have an alumnus who has a personal foundation, and for years I was trying to figure out how do I get him to support Menlo College, but he kept saying, look, I have very specific areas of interest that I want to fund. Great memories of Menlo College, but higher education is just not one of them. But one of them was, and still is, civic engagement. And so I went to him finally with a pitch that spoke directly to the critical element that's necessary with effective civic engagement, which is public speaking skills. The ability to, as you said earlier, Epi, the ability to land in any room and present yourself credibly and in a compelling way. And I made the pitch for him to to allow us to launch a required public speaking component so that every student who walks across our commencement stage has engaged in a broad array of public speaking opportunities while a student, so that they develop the confidence. And I said that'll position them to stand up at their city hall meeting, their PTA meeting, maybe run for office. But parenthetically, I know this isn't your focus, but it's also going to mean that when they knock on that door, and we're less than 2 miles from Stanford's campus. And so very often our students are knocking on the same doors that a Stanford grad is knocking on. And the reality is Stanford grad knocks on that door. Generally speaking, it opens right away. And there's an expectation that the student doesn't need to overcome in order to be given full consideration. It's not always true for a Menlo College grad. I wish it were different, but it's not always true. So as I said to him, you care about enabling students, young people, to be effective as community leaders. I care about that too. But I also care about our students' ability to get that door opened and to present themselves in a way that speaks to their full capability and the promise that they have. And that's where public speaking comes in. And it's, again, now connecting my own dot here. It's developing that self-confidence. And that's part of it. Once somebody can get up on a stage and speak to 1,000 people, they can then go forward with a different degree of what they understand they're capable of and a sense of assurance.
Absolutely. I mean, what is like after or death is a second fear that people fear of a public speaking.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I spoke in front of 100 people. I was like having my sweaty palms, like I was like doing all those things going on in my. But we just have to give them. I'm so congratulate you and kudos to you for giving that stage the students. Again, this goes back again to my universities. I wish I had all these things in place so I can become better version of ourselves. And this is what life is about. Like, we wake up in the morning and figure out what is my better version of ourselves. And this is what exactly we're doing, Stevens.
Beautiful.
Grateful to have you here and truly appreciate your time. And I know this is a short format conversation, and every guest in my podcast, I like to get their different ways how they see the word bold. And in this case, what does that mean to you personally?
Bold, to be bold is to have the confidence sometimes to make small decisions. So many people, when I became president of Menlo College, the first question people inevitably asked was, "What changes are you going to bring?" Well, I think it's also bold to make those decisions, and of course I've made them over my tenure as president. But it's also bold to step back and say, I need to understand this institution and the community that makes this institution tick, in order to then allow the community to come together and for those bold decisions. But we have collectively reached the consensus that it's vitally important for us to keep our nimbleness at the forefront. And lately, of course, that has meant understanding ways in which to prepare our students to be successful in a world in which AI is prominently featured in every paragraph and in every conversation. We're looking at ways, and we've already started at the freshman year, looking for ways to integrate exposure to AI, understanding of AI's capabilities, not as an engineer, but as a manager, so that they can be successful in their lives, because AI is such a broad part of it. This is a moment when career readiness becomes increasingly important, and I think there's an art to emphasizing career readiness, but avoiding becoming a technical school. I think that fits within the spectrum of what a liberal arts-based education can provide. And I think similarly, understanding where trends are going and translating that into educational opportunities is a vital piece of what will keep Menlo College relevant. We're an undergraduate only institution for the first 94 years of our existence. And in the last 3 years, we've launched 3 very narrowly focused graduate programs, all of which were intentionally chosen to reflect current strengths, directions the world is going, and ways in which we can further differentiate Menlo College. So we did not consider an MBA, even though that builds on our strengths, but that wouldn't differentiate Menlo College. Whereas a master's in fintech, that'll differentiate Menlo College. A master's in information systems, not as an engineer, but as someone who's managing big data, that differentiates Menlo College. And similarly, and this plays off of another strength, 2 other strengths of Menlo College, psychology and athletics, and it's a mouthful. Our third graduate program is a Master of Art in Sport and Performance Psychology. Relates to business, but also come back to that 55% of our population of our students who are interested in athletics. Many of them want to have athletics be part of their professional lives too. And now the field also offers the opportunity for people who want to coach opera singers and performing arts folks. So far, we haven't attracted those with that ambition, but it may come.
Yeah. Steven, so great to see you. Thank you for joining me in this Bold Talk series. Looking forward to meeting you in person and have a bigger conversation. Until that time, take care, be great, and be bold always. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Epi.